I'm Daniel McGrew. I'm a product support specialist for Epiroc with their underground rock excavation division. Today we will be doing a walk around on the E1C DH Boomer, but this will also apply for any of the E series, M series, and S series boomers. So here is the left side engine compartment bay door. Raise that up. From here, we can check our hydraulic oil level up here. If it is low, use this button to fill it up. Here's our A50 cabinet, which is our electric for the machine. It includes our fuses. Down here is our engine oil level dipstick, our engine oil fill, our fuel water separator, and the drain is here. And our coolant level fill button is right here. In this area, you want to check your cables and your hoses from your air and from this cabinet. Check for any cuts, leaks, loose fittings, anything that could keep you from getting to work, that could cause an issue down the road. Also in here, you want to check for any engine oil or coolant leaks. And then here you have your IO modules, D131 and D132. So here we have the rear compartment of the machine, which houses our compressor, our pump stack on the E1C DH, our cooling fans, our coolant housing is up there with the sight glass, our grease bucket for the manual greaser, and also our Ansel system is back here in the back. In this area, what you want to check for is your oil level in your compressor. Should be in the top of the sight glass. If not, take this plug out, fill it up. Your air cleaner for the compressor is here. You also have your water pump here, so you want to check these fittings, make sure there's no leaks or signs of leaks. Wiring for the chassis, rear part of the chassis, is your A52 panel right here. With your pump stacks, anything you want to check there would be for loose fittings or signs of leaks or any type of damaged hoses. With your cooler, you want to make sure that what you can see on this side, the fins are clean and there's no signs of leaks. Here you have a valve stack for the compressor and your rear jacks. So here we are at the back of the machine. This is your fill for your diesel tank. Here's your door for your battery compartment, which is also houses your master switch, which you can also tag out and lock out. The battery compartment does slide out so that you can check your battery cables and your battery terminals for corrosion, and very easily slide back in and lock in place. Here you have your water fill valve. You want to make sure that it's tight, not cracked. And then also back here you want to check your lights, make sure they're not cracked or anything that would keep them from working. So now we are at the right rear of the machine. Here you can see is our def tank door. Remove that, fill def as needed. Latch in place. You can also check for leaks while you're there. Also make sure that your pin is here for your fire suppression system. Also on this side, this doesn't open up, but you can also inspect your fins for the cooling system. Make sure that nothing's going to hinder them from cooling the engine down and the hydraulics. Just make sure there's nothing obstructing them and they're not leaking. So here we are at the right side of the machine for the engine bay. Lift the hood up. Here we can inspect the engine on this side. We have our alternator and our alternator belt here. We can also see our drive line as well. We can check our air cleaner here and check the piping going to that and piping coming from our turbo. Make sure there's no leaks and that these clamps are tight. The other thing we can check on this side, other than leaks, is our caps for our fire suppression nozzle, make sure the caps are on there. So here we want to check our tires. We want to check the tread, the sidewall for any damage. Check our lug nuts, make sure they're tight and there are no signs of them running loose. Check our air pressure. And then here we can check our oil level in our planetaries. So here we are on the right hand side of the machine. We have a water tank here, which is on the E1C DHs, and some of our bolters that are self-contained. So we want to check the seal up here at the top of the tank, make sure that it's not cracked or that there's no signs of leak. We have a sight glass here so that we can see how much water that's in the tank. Down here we have a drain so we can drain the water sediment or drain the machine if we're taking it outside in colder weather. In here we have our transmission and our position pump. This will apply to all of the models from S up to the E series. Transmission, pump, and then we want to check our lines in here to make sure that there's no damage from rockfall or cuts, anything of that nature. So here we are on the right side of the cab. One thing we want to check is our E-stop. Make sure we can push it in and twist and it comes back out. And the cables. We have our fire suppression button here. Make sure the pin is in place and there's no damage. Down here is our steps. These are flexible, so you want to make sure that there's no rips or tears in this part. Down here is our boot wash valve, sprays. So you want to check here for no cracks or leaks, along with the hoses. This is the valve for the boot wash. Same thing. Check your fittings. Make sure there's no leaks or cracks. Then down here is your water mist system drain, and then your safety valve as well. And you want to make sure that the steel braid is still in place there. Check your windshields and your glass for any cracks or broken glass. Windshield washer fluid level. And then back here at the back of the cab is your condenser for your AC. So here we are at the front of the machine. Here we want to check our stabilizer jacks on either side. Check your hoses and your fittings for any type of leaks. And then you have no oil running down the rod of your cylinders. Inside here is our valves for our flushing air, our ECL, oil and air, and then our water as well. Here's our auto greaser. This is where you would fill it up at. Down here you have your hydraulic valves for your jacks and your outriggers. Regulator and your gauge for your air lubrication. Air pressure gauge. Back here is your water flushing valve. And then behind here is a flow valve for your flushing, as well as here as well. Here is the hand grease pump for some portions of the machine that need to be hand greased. And then our lights on the front down here, you want to make sure that the lenses aren't cracked or any signs that they would not be working. So the upper portion of the cab and the front of the machine, we want to check our lights. The bigger lights are our drilling lights, and then the two smaller ones are our driving lights. We want to make sure that the lenses aren't cracked or if there's any signs that they would not be working. Just below them is our alignment laser. We want to make sure that there's no damage to that. And then on this side we have our boom lift sensor. We want to make sure there's no damage to that cable and cable and the fitting. And then we want to check our grease lines as well. Here we are on the left side of the machine. Here we can check all of our boom, feed, and drilling hoses and cables. We want to check for any type of leaks or any type of damage to the hoses. We can also see our cylinder as well for leaks. Up here in this little gray box is our inclinometer. We want to check that for any type of damage. Behind this box is our positioning valve. So we want to check to make sure that all these connections are good and tight and there's no signs of leaks. And then down here are some hoses with our pressure sensors. Up here is our rock drill oil tank, our boot wash valve, and then we want to make sure that our sights are in place as well. So here we are on the left side of the cab. Here we want to make sure that our water mist valves are good, that there's no leaks and there's no damage. Here we also want to check our glass, make sure there's no damage to the glass or to the door. We have another e-stop here. We want to make sure that it functions and it twists and unlocks. Also, we want to check to make sure we have our steering lock here and that both pins are here in case you need them. So here we are on the feed beam of the E1C DH. This will also apply to several other models, including our S and M frame boomers. This is our drifter. This is our MD20 20 kilowatt drifter. On this machine, we want to check for, again, our hoses coming up over our hose drum. There's no leaks. And check the wear on these. These are constantly sliding back and forth, so we want to check the wear on these. We have a cable here. That is our return cable. We want to make sure that the nut is there tight and it is secured. We also want to check our mounting bolts on all four corners. Make sure the drifter is secured to the slide. We have sliding pieces on this carriage and on this carriage as well. We want to check the wear on them as well. Coming forward, we want to check our pull rope and our return rope. Be careful with this. Just check the tension. You don't want to slide your hand if there is a burr that can cut you. Wear gloves if you do check it. We also want to check our shank adapter here. We want to check the wear on our threads. And then we do have a couple of grease points for the flushing housing on the drifter as well here. So here we are in the middle of the feed with some things to check as well. We have a bulkhead here of our hydraulic hoses. We want to check that they're tight and not leaking. We have our cradle length sensor here. We want to check the cable. And then we have the cable itself that it runs that determines where the drifter is on the feed beam. Here we have our feed slides. We want to check them for wear as well. And then through here we want to check our sliding pieces, our cover pieces. These are stainless steel covers that go over the aluminum feed and take the wear instead of the aluminum. We want to make sure when we run our hand across these that there's no edge or that we don't see any of the aluminum visible. Back here we also have one sensor, and this tells the machine how far the feed is extended out. We just want to make sure that the cable back here is good and then the connection here is tight as well. So here we are at our traveling centralizer. Things that we want to check is the centralizer itself, the bushing. Check the sheave for any type of debris or rock that could be filled up in here. And we also have a greaser here. We moved it from here, which would get caked up and we wouldn't see it. So we moved it out here to where it's a little bit more accessible to get to, easier to grease. So here we are at the front of the feed beam. Here we have our dowel. This spends its life up against the rock face, so it does get damaged over time. And then here we have our front centralizer. This is key to starting the hole straight and keeping the steel alignment correct. So you want to check for wear inside of here. So here we are at the front of the boom. Here we have a rotation unit here and here. This unit makes the whole feed swing this way. This one allows the feed to swing back and forth this way. These are oil filled, so there are seals that we need to check. Make sure that there's no oil seeping out around here. Under this cover here, we do have some sensors and the motors that run the rotators. So we want to check to make sure there's no damage to the sensor. There's no oil leaks inside of here. And here in this wire loom here, we have the cables for these sensors, so we want to ensure that this is not damaged as well. Thank you for your time today, and for more information, please contact your local Epiroc dealer or service center.